So first pair of Vancouver car wrap sportsmen in the box. Joel Smith brings up the Zapstrap Racing Chevelle Tower side. Going up against a driver not yet on file in the right lane. No 75 to a 252. Joel Smith is 1164, 115 miles an hour. His opponent, 1436 at 92. Bring up Bruce Sturtz with the 2005 Dodge Ram. He goes up against Eric Brittain. For the half-fast 2, the half-fast 2 Datsun? It's not like any Datsun I've ever seen. Saw that car out in testing yesterday, and I always thought it was an interesting look on that thing. Brittain goes 022 on the tree, follows it up 99 miles an hour. Oh. Well, I don't think he got there in 1.6 seconds, if I'm being honest. Sturtz goes 1566 at 84 miles an hour. Meanwhile, Steve Baskerville and Dale Wood will bring him on up. That is the 2022 Mustang GT going up against Dale Wood's 1972 Nova. Dale Wood goes 1129, 116 miles an hour. Baskerville goes 1271 at 115. Richard Love, once again, back for more for the Reflections Guest House, SS Motorsports 89 S10. Richard Love taking off 035 on the tree. His opponent 367 on the light. Love goes 1162 at about 15. His opponent 1439, 98 miles an hour. And that brings up Dallas Nassy for the overtime Honda BC Draga and Snorkum Canada Honda Civic. Dallas was racing in Junior Street last year, has graduated to full-size cars. He has chosen to run in Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman in the same car that he ran in the Junior Street category. He races Jessica Armstrong. The Armstrong at Monroe Marketing 75 Dart. Jessica Armstrong, 1334, 102 miles an hour. Dallas Nassy on a cruise with an 1837 at 70 miles an hour. And that brings up Sylvia Hookstins facing off against Veronica Hodgson. Sylvia Hookstins finishing 6th in the points last year. 33 away from cracking into the top 5. 053 to an 041 top end. Houston's 11:39 at 18 miles an hour. Hodgson goes 11:85 at 1:08. Bring up Roland Lowen for the local auto parts. 1955 Meteor got his first career win at Mission Raceway Park last year. Then Brandon Piskacek coming home 5th in the points last year. The Ford Motor Canada with Thomas Foxbody. Lowen 12:82, 101 miles an hour. Piskacek 13:17 at 1:01. Next pair up, Randy Hermsen. How about that? Not running his usual behemoth. He's running the Eddie the Eagle 1987 AMC against Eric Hansen for the Broadway Refrigeration 70s Dodge. Hansen, 12:18, 1:08. Hermsen, 20 seconds at 65 miles an hour. And we'll bring up another 2020's Mustang. This one going up against Ann Copeland with the 2016 Subaru Outback. The Mustang goes 12:03 at 1:18. Copeland, 15:54 at 90 miles an hour. And that brings up a pair of pickups. Stormy Newcomb for the SBB Racing, Pavey Hills Machines, and Acro Machining 99 S10. Welcome, Stormy Newcomb, to Mission Raceway Park. Racing again, Rob Getz with the 2024 F-150. His daughter Sophia running in the same truck in Junior Street. Hey, attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Rad Torch Systems, Super Pro. This is your final call to the lanes. Super Pro, final call to the lanes. And we're going to make the call for Mountain View Harley-Davidson motorcycles to lane 5. That is motorcycles. Come on up, lane 5. Bikes to lane 5. Rob Getz out in front of Stormy Newcomb. Rob goes 0:55. Stormy goes 0:28. With that call for Rad Torch Systems, Super Pro with your last call to the lanes and bikes to lane 5, we're also going to put Old Car Center Hot Rod on standby. That is Hot Rod, you are on standby. Kevin McCauley brings up the BDL Automotive Old School Cutlass from 1983. He races against two-time repeat champion Nick Douglas. Douglas took the championship in spades with a near 300-point deficit to Grant Gordon, when Grant Gordon had his season go a little bit awry towards the back end of things. We'll bring up Philip Marvetts and Grace Camp. Marvetts running the Sunbreeze Landscaping 1971 Plymouth out of Everson, Washington. And coming up from Abbotsford is Grace Camp with the Ground Pounder Racing 64 Falcon. Bill Wells brings out the TNT Auto Parts. 1979 Malibu right now with 60 years of racing experience under his belt. For the 82-year-old, he'll take off down track and goes 1169 at 107 miles an hour. Dale Wood and Joel Smith will be the first pair. Nova versus Zapstrap Racing Chevelle for the second qualifier. Smith goes 1156 at 115 miles an hour. Wood goes 1246 at 88 miles an hour. Bring up Veronica Hodgson for Lorco Auto Parts in her Dodge Dart, racing against Bruce Sturtz, running the 2005 Dodge Ram pickup. Hodgson goes 1187, 108 miles an hour, while Bruce Sturtz will go 1574, 84 miles an hour. Next up, Eric Hansen and Stormy Newcomb. Broadway Refrigeration, Dart versus the SBB Racing, Pavey Hills Machines, and Acro Machining, S10. Hansen goes 1219, 108. Newcomb, 1282 at 101. And that brings up Sylvia Hookstons in her beautiful 1966 Ford Mustang versus Jessica Armstrong for the Armstrong and Monroe Marketing 1975 Dodge Dart. Sylvia Hookstons will go 1164, 96 miles an hour. Armstrong, 1335 at 101. And another Mustang coming on up to our side, facing off against freshly graduated former Junior Street competitor Dallas Nassie for the overtime Honda BC Dragon at Snorkum, Canada Honda Civic. And it'll go the way of the left lane as the Mustang goes 14.59 at 89 miles an hour. Nasty goes 15.70 at 98. We'll bring up Steve Baskerville and Kevin McCauley. The Mustang GT will go up against the BDL Automotive Old School Cutlass on the far side. Attention the pits, attention the pits. Mountain View Harley-Davidson motorcycle, we need you on down to lane 5. That is motorbikes to lane number 5. And then Old Car Center Hot Rod, you are on standby. And Copeland versus Eric Bertain on the next pass down. Bertain gonna go 13.86, 98 miles an hour. Copeland 15.44 at 91. So the next batch, it's Roland Lowen and Kathy Love. Reflections Guest House Motorsports 2003 pickup on the far side, facing off against the Lorca Auto Parts Meteor here, tower side. Lowen, 009 on the tree, follows it up with a 12.87, 99 miles an hour. Kathy Love goes 14.38 at 97. Sizable sportsman class this afternoon, one of the biggest classes on the property. Steve Watkins and Philip Marvetts, the next two down. Watkins gets there ahead, 12.03, 118 miles an hour. Marvetts goes 12.07 at 106. Next one up, Grace Campt. Running the Ground Pounder Racing 1964 Falcon. Camp going to face off against Brandon Piskacek with the Buick Ford Motor in Canada with Thomas Mustang over on the far side. Piskacek goes 13.16 with a 5 at 101. Camp goes 16.20 at 86. And And the next pairing up, Rob Getz, running his 2024 Ford F-150, racing Richard Love with the Random Guesthouse SS Motorsports 1989 Chevy S10. Nick Douglas looking like he'll be one of the last runners in Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman before we roll back to Rad Torque Systems Super Pro, which of course comes in as the quickest and fastest class of the weekend. Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Rad Torque Systems Super Pro to the lanes. Super Pro to the lanes and motorcycles to lane 5. So Super Pro and motorcycles to the lanes with bikes to lane 5. And standby to Old Car Center Hot Rod. So Super Pro to the lanes, bikes to lane 5. And Hot Rod on standby. First pair of the season for Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman, Kevin McCulley. Dials into the 1165 for the Be It Allowed Old School Cutlass. Wheels up in the air is Philip Marvetts for the Sunbreeze Landscaping 71 Plymouth, dialed in at 1190. Double breakout. Marvetts got there first, goes under by more. McCulley moves on. Next up, Randy Hermson running the Eddie the Eagle 87 AMC, already fully bumped in. Dialed in at over 20 seconds. Joel Smith for the Zapstrap Racing Chevelle has got a long wait. 1160 on the tree. He's got to wait as Hermson gets out in front. Hermson turned on the red light, so Joel Smith doesn't have to worry about it. Free pass into the second round. Stormy Newcomb will bring up the SBB Racing, Pavey Hills Machines, and Acro Machini 1999 has 10,000 at 1282. Bruce Sturts racing alongside. Two pickups going down track. Newcomb takes that one away. Next pairing up, it's Richard Love and Jessica Armstrong. Reflections Guest House SS Motorsports S10 dials in 1169 to the Armstrong and Monroe Marketing 75 Dart dials in 1336. Richard Love gets the head of Armstrong. So Grace Kemp and Bill Wells. Oh, problem set in for Bill Wells big time, and he's going to pull that car over to the right-hand side. So he's going to bring it to a stop just past 300 feet. Grace Kemp, free pass to the next round. Not sure, actually. So, situation. Grace Kemp has broken out. Bill Wells is not moving. And it is a broken rear end on Bill Wells' car. So this is going to be a big question as to who moves on. So Dale Wood and Eric Brittain are sitting back here in the water box. 1160 for the 1972 Nova, and Brittain dialed in at 1386 for the half-fast 2. Pseudo-dragster? I think it would be an apt description. It's a unique car. I like the look of it, though. So Bill Wells having his Malibu towed up to the top end. Now, the ruling with how this works, in most cases, you would imagine Grace Kemp would have won that race, given that she made it to the end of the racetrack. Bill Wells did not, but Grace Kemp also broke out, went 1599 of the 1615 dial. So because Bill Wells did not break out, did not have a red light, did not cross the center line, by all metrics and what we are hearing, Bill Wells will be moving on into the second round by way of automatic DQ from Grace Kemp for breaking out. Now, whether Bill Wells will be back for the next round, obviously that depends on how severe the damage is and what ends up going on in the pits. But by every metric, Bill Wells will be, at least on paper, into round 2. So Dale Wood, Eric Bertain, 1160 to a 1386. Bertain's in, Wood's in. And it's a red light for Eric Bertain. So Bertain going to be out of round 1 of eliminations here in Sportsman. Dale Wood will move on into the second round. Brings up the next pairing. This one, Kathy Love for Reflections Guest House at SS Motorsports. Dials in 1445 with the 2003 Extreme pickup. Facing off against Sylvia Hookstins with a 1966 Ford Mustang. She dials in at 1160. Tension in the pits, tension in the pits. Craig Johnson, we are waiting on you in the staging lanes. Craig Johnson, we are waiting on you in the staging lanes. If you have broke, please let us know. Craig Johnson, we are waiting for you in the staging lanes. Both Kathy Love and Sylvia Hookstons are away. And up at the top end, it'll be Hookstons taking it on a double breakout, which sends us to the next pair with Ann Copeland. Dials the Subaru Outback in at 1540, while the Lord Kawada Parts Dodge Dart of Veronica Hodgson will dial in at 1190. Up to the top end, give it to Veronica Hodgson, going 016 to the margin of victory. 1192 on the 1190 dial. And now, how about that? Battle of the Piscachecks. The Buick Ford Motor in Canada with Thomas, machine for Brandon. Dials in 1320 here on the tower side out of Burnaby. And, well, Dan, father versus son here. So the senior of the pair will be on the right side, dialing in at 1452. Both cars away on green lights. So who will best the other in the family feud? Top end, it's the son taking it on a double breakout. Brandon Piscachek will best his dad, Dan, to move on into the next round. That leaves us with Eric Hansen and Steve Watkins. Broadway Refrigeration's 1220 Dodge Dart dials in against the 1201 of a Ford Mustang from 2018. Five thousandths of a second. Give that one to Steve Watkins. Top end of the racetrack goes 1206 at 106. So Rob Getz will bring up the 2024 Ford F-150, dials in at 1180 next to Sean Langley. The 69 Mustang dials in at 1640. Sorry, not the 69 Mustang, the Ford Escape dials in at 16:40, and oh boy, close race on that one, but it's going to be a race of the red lights, separated by 3 thou. Langley went 109 red, Getz only 106. So 3 thousandths will give Getz the win on that one. Lucked out. Baskerville's 2022 Mustang GT dials in 1265 against the overtime BC Dragon, and Snorcom Canada Honda Civic dials in at 15 seconds for Dallas Nassie. Top end of the racetrack, Steve Baskerville will take out the former junior street competitor, and Baskerville is through to round 2. Now Roland Lowen for Lorico Auto Parts, running the 955 Meteor, dials in at 1287 to Nick Douglas. The 2023 Super B dials in at 1210. Again, 2 green lights. And Nick Douglas takes it.
Well, here we go. First pair, round number 2, sportsman action coming up. Looks like it's going to be Steve Watkins and Kevin McCauley. Watkins, tower side of the racetrack. 2018 Mustang. Dials 12 seconds exactly. Kevin McCauley with 1165 on the window of the Cutlass. 4 bulbs lit. So one of these drivers with a sizable starting line advantage. And does a nice job at the finish line on the brake pedal. Cutting down how much stripe he was going to take. Kevin McCauley was trying to make up for his 168 light, and in doing so, went 1164 on the 1165, crossing second. So as mentioned, Watkins will be coming back in that 2018 Ford Mustang. Now, the newer cars, they like to spit a lot of water out the exhaust pipes when they leave the starting line. That's what the crew's doing right now, is taking care of that. So if you are a driver, one of those newer cars, doing your best to clear the exhaust out in the staging lanes would be very, very much appreciated. That would quite drastically cut down on the work the starting line crew has to do, and it'll also save us some time. So a couple of Chevys rolling up now. Joel Smith in the right-hand lane. Zap Strap Racing, 1968 Chevelle. Little small block under the hood. Dale Wood over here on the tower side out of Mission. The 72 Nova. Also with a Chevy small block. Both guys sporting 383 cubic inches. Pretty common number these days in the small block Chevy. So again, drastic starting line advantage for the right lane. Joel Smith kind of had this one in the bag. He was 009 on the starting line. Dale Woods Light started with a 3. He had his work cut out for him, to say the least. So Steve Baskerville does a real nice job at the stripe, took 7th thou. However, did not get the win. That went to Veronica Hodgson. Both cars were under. Veronica by a lesser amount, so she moves on. Now, Sportsman champ Nick Douglas at the starting line, left-hand lane, or TCS lane if you prefer. Richard Love in the right lane. So again, over 1/10 of a second separates these two cars by reaction time. The guy with the better light gets the win light at the finish line. Imagine that. So Nick Douglas will move on to round number 3. On the strength of an 033 light. Now Brendan Piskasek will take on Sylvia Hoogstens. Sporting a bunch more power this year. Your 66 Mustang. 50 thou starting line advantage for Sylvia in the right lane. And then goes dead on with an 8. Totals out at 39 thou. Nice job, Sylvia. Moving on to round number 3. She was 031 on the tree. Brennan was 081. So he's 50 thou behind, had his work cut out for him. Attention in the pits. Junior Thunder, this is your call to the staging lanes, along with Junior Lightning. Take Junior Thunder to lane number 1 and Junior Lightning to lane number 2. Once again, junior classes, this is your call to the staging lanes. Junior Thunder to lane number 1, Junior Lightning to lane number 2. And we'll give a standby.
Trying to stay out in front. Top end of the racetrack, it'll be Watkins knocking out Veronica Hodgson. So Steve Watkins goes 031 to the good on Veronica Hodgson at the top end. Brings up Stormy Newcomb for SBB Racing, Pavey Hills Machines and Acro Machining with the 99 S10 dialed up against Sylvia Hoogstens, dialed up at 1160 to the 1276. Once again, since we are getting a little bit closer to that point of the day, if you are a class winner and you are wanting an interview, we will be conducting all winner interviews in the winner's circle at the end of the race day. So once our last final has been run, we will come on down And we'll be more than happy to give you a chat if you're a class winner. Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Juniors to the lanes, juniors to the lanes. We need juniors back to the lanes, juniors to the lanes. And we will also call license and test to 5 and 6. So juniors to the lanes, you know which ones, license and test to 5 and 6. Breakout for Hookston. Sylvia Hookston's got there first, but goes under by 7th thou. So Stormy Newcomb takes another. Nick Douglas, the next one to bear alongside Joel Smith. The 12-15-second Super B races against the Zap Strap Racing Chevelle, dialed in at 1160. Top end of the racetrack as we got 2 green lights. It's Joel Smith, 1/1000th of a second off the dial. 1160 with a 1 on the 1160 dial gives him an easy win over Nick Douglas. So we move on to Vancouver Car Wrap Sportsman. Also in their quarterfinal round with 7 cars remaining. Stormy Newcomb and Steve Watkins will face off. The SBB Racing, Pavia Hills Machines, and Acro Machining. S10 dials in 1276. Leaves ahead of Steve Watkins' Ford. Watkins into the final as Newcomb could not stay out in front. So it will be Watkins against Joel Smith in the Sportsman Final.
And Steve Watkins in the Lordco lane. Joel Smith in the left lane here in that 68 Chevelle, dialed in with an 1160. Steve Watkins in the right lane, dialed in with a 1203. Bit of a new versus old final. We got a 68 Chevelle taking on a 2018 Ford Mustang. Joel getting in there, loading up on that foot brake. And Joel turns it red, going 0-12 red. Steve Watkins cruising on down there with that wind light on. Just taking his time. Joel going an 11:48 on the 1160, running it out, obviously. Steve, 16:95 on the 12:03, but it did not matter because Joel was red. So Steve Watkins taking home the win. Steve Watkins is your Vancouver Car Wraps champion. Vancouver Car Wraps Sportsman category winner today.